Help if I'm not on mute, wouldn't it?
Start again, mate. Start
again. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. I am Stephen Browne, not on mute, and joining me is Jayson Booker. Jason, how are we doing, mate?
Very well, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? Been a while since we've done one of these.
Been a couple of weeks. I mean, we're always conversing, aren't we? But
yes. Still have our therapy sessions, even if it's via Twitter.
Via Twitter text or Twitter message. But yeah, we're good. I mean, it's feeling quite a nice habit, isn't it? This winning malarkey. So,
you know what? There's so much to get through. There really is, because it's how it swings from disaster to everything's great. It's just been absolutely mental. We are here to talk about Leeds United, of course. We've got so much to get through. Obviously, the Nottingham Forest game, we're going to break that down, and then we're going to look ahead towards the Palace game. But I just want to get your thoughts quickly, because I've not spoken to you since the Arsenal game. It was a 4-1 loss. What did you make of the game and our setup? Obviously, it was quite a surprising line up at the start, but what did you make of how we got on in that game?
I mean, as much as I like when the starting lineup came out, I was a little bit like, what is this? Like, I assumed it was going to be a 5-back and Christensen was going to be like a right centre back. We were going to have probably Koch and then Struijk, something like that. I think that was the case, wasn't it? The three of them played. Yeah, that were right. That's 5-4-1 was what I was probably expecting. But then we had no striker, which then made me think, well, Sinisterra is probably going to play there. Then I would imagine he's probably the one out of the options that we picked that had the ability to kind of link play and hold it up. And then when we started, it was a version of 4-3-3, but really deep. And I mean, as much as I kind of questioned it when I saw the lineup came out, it wasn't a case for me that I was like, this is bang out of order, this ain't going to work. I trusted Gracia and what he was hopefully going to try and do. And the facts are, for the first 30 minutes, it worked. We had the better chances for the first half hour. We had 2 or 3 really good chances. I mean, Somerville, when he went through, if he sticks that away, who knows? It's a different game, isn't it? So, and then obviously... Ayling, found himself finally being able to contribute for Arsenal again after getting sent off at the Emirates last year. He does it again this year. I mean, I've seen some fans like kicking off that it's not a penalty and like Jesus dived and all this. Like, what are you watching? What are you looking at? Yeah. Like, yeah, he goes down easily, sure, but he has every right to go down. I mean, Ayling's missed the tackle anyway, and then while he's laid down, kicks his knee. Like, what? Honestly, some people just love to hang on to the bias, and the bias makes it right. It's crazy. Anyway, we shouldn't be too negative, really. We've obviously had positives since then. The rest of the game went the way that you would probably expect it to go, given that the leaders of the Premier League got ahead against a team that were towards the bottom of the league. They're very, very good. I mean, Arsenal, after going 1-0 up, I thought they were brilliant on the whole. For the first half an hour, we stood a chance. If we'd have managed to get a goal or hang on still at 0-0 to half-time, it's different. But once we go 1-0 down, it's a different game. And, as vulnerabilities at set pieces still showed up and all this. So, yeah, it is what it is. In isolation, it don't really mean too much. We weren't expected to get anything out of it. And I think, we saw signs in that first half an hour that, we could cause an upset. We could do things. We could tactically set up a little bit differently, and unfortunately we just didn't get anything out of that game. So
yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think my overwhelming feeling on the back of that game was I really like what Gracia is doing. I really liked his setup to the game, and it was working for the first half an hour, and it's an individual mistake that's kind of blown it to pieces again. And it's that kind of thing, well, it doesn't matter how good the game plan is, if you get an individual mistake or someone doing that, what are you supposed to do,
Yeah.
So kind of moving away from the Arsenal game, I mean, you then get to the Everton Spurs game, and I was pulling my hair out again, just thinking, oh my goodness, the Michael Keane goal and how bad Spurs were. So when it kind of got through to, Tuesday and the day of the game, I was in that state of like, oh my God, it's like the world's against us, and we're going to really struggle again. I mean, going into that Forest game, where were you at kind of mentally with it?
Spursy are more Spursy than Leeds are Leedsy.
Oh my God.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I messaged you at the time. I fully expected Everton to get something out of the game before kick-off. So the fact that they only managed to get a point in the last minute, I actually saw it as 2 points dropped because Spurs are all over the place and Everton at home are a decent side. I don't think Everton will be in the equation come the end of it, but they're still there now, and but that's just my opinion. Anyway, going into Tuesday, thankfully I was extremely busy early on this week, so I was very distracted from the fact that the game was coming up, because normally I'd be like, oh god, the game's coming up, you know what I mean? I'd be stressing out about it. And in the run up to the game, I was fairly confident that we would come out of it with 3 points, because I remember just how bad Forest were at the City Ground, where they are, they're getting their only points from, really. While we were set up under Jesse Marsh, while we were on terrible form, we still should have won that game. Certainly first half. So I was fairly confident going into the game. And how we set up and how we set out, we were very open. We left ourselves open for the first 15, 20 minutes, I thought personally, until we grew into the game. Probably until they scored, really. There were a couple of moments where they broke, and I thought every time they went forward, it felt like they could get beyond us. But even when they scored, I weren't a case of this is over. It didn't feel like that. And more as the game went on, you saw the influence of some of the players that were having. I'm sure we'll go into it in more detail, or what name names just yet. But we were dominating the game. So I felt confident in the run up, and that carried on into the way that we started the game, even going 1-0 down early.
Yeah, because that the worry. The opening period of the game did worry me, because, like you said, there was that kind of vulnerability there, and I thought, this feels like a bit chaotic, does this?
Yeah,
and when Forest scored, I've got to admit, Matt, I was slumped. I thought, oh, here we go again. I just thought it's going to happen again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just didn't turn out that way, because Leeds ended up producing a really, really good performance. You've got to say, breaking it down. I mean, when you go 1-0 down to a team that you're fighting against in a relegation scrap, I mean, it feels like if that had been, say, a Marsh team or something, heads would have gone, wouldn't it?
And would have collapsed.
Would have collapsed. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it felt like that's what we used to do. Yeah. Thankfully, now hopefully we're seeing that doesn't quite happen. So getting into kind of specifics then, and player performances and how we set up, who in that first kind of period, who for you? I mean, for me, it was Jack Harrison and Sinister who, really were causing so many problems for Forest. But who stood out for you in that kind of first period and after Forest had scored?
I mean, certainly them two did. I thought it was so refreshing to see Jack Harrison look confident. He were driving at people. He looked more effective from the right-hand side than he has done probably ever. He weren't afraid to go on his outside, which then were creating the defenders a problem, because he wasn't just, pigeonholing it to cutting inside every time onto his stronger left foot. He had Ayling going past him, and we'll talk about Ayling at some point, but he still did create, openings for Jack, because it was taking one of the defenders away. I mean, the goal was just horrendous defending, in my opinion. There's a moment where Jack Harrison's got the ball, Ayling runs off of his right shoulder behind him, and both of them go with Ayling. If you have a look in the build-up to that goal, they both go with Ayling. Harrison squares it to McKennie to Roca. Roca shoots, and then Harrison obviously follows in the rebound, but it's horrendous defending. But for me, the two standouts were the two in midfield. Like Roca and McKennie were, especially first half, I thought McKennie was phenomenal. His best performance by a mile. It were both of their best performances actually in the Leeds shirt. But McKennie, first half were industrial. He were driving, he were tackling, he's passing. He's which is probably his weakest area that we've seen anyway. He were first time pinging balls to the wings. He weren't even thinking about it. He already had the look up. Boom, it were out wide, left and right. And Roca, I mean, it was a sensational midfield performance. It was as good of a midfield performance that you'll see in the league. And yeah, we were only playing Forest, but if he'd have replicated that against any midfield in the Premier League, he would have had a lot of successes, because he was doing the right things. He was battling. He was able to shield the ball from 2, 3, 4 players sometimes, and that then make openings further up the pitch because he'd retain the ball in tight spots, and it drags players towards him, doesn't it? His passing range was brilliant. I mean, it was phenomenal for me. It was absolutely excellent, and he's had his question marks over his stamina and his fitness to be able to do 90 minutes. He was still doing it in the 90th minute. I thought it was brilliant. I really did.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Roca for me, that was the performance that Mark Roca. And I said this to you before, it was almost like the idea of Mark Roca was better than what we were actually seeing on the pitch. You think of the technique, the passing range, that kind of thing. And, you'd seen it in fits and bursts and very progressive passing and everything like that. But, it did get caught out in possession a lot. You've seen that where he gets caught out a lot,
You know what, Brownie? It's terrible recruitment for the style of play that we were going to play under Marsh. That's what it is. Why bring in? Because Mark Roca's not particularly mobile, really. No. He's quite slow. He's not ridiculously slow, but you know what I mean? He's not an explosive central midfielder. He's not particularly a defensive midfielder, I would say. He's a deep lying playmaker that picks the ball up and wants to spread the ball with intelligent passes. He opens up the space for himself with clever touches in tight spaces, but he hasn't got the mobility to then drive forward like McKennie has, as an example. So he needs to pick up the ball and have space to be able to pick them passes. And I said this for weeks and weeks and weeks when we were doing these shows. Roca is picking up the ball and he's trying to use his passing range and thread the eye of a needle. And now he's not having to do that. He's got a space to be able to pass the ball out wide and get it wrong by a yard or two, but it still be able to be effective for us because it'll come off the defender and go out for a throw in. The attacker will win a free kick, or it'll go over a defender's head and the attacker will be able to run onto it. There's so much more availability when he can make passes like that, not into tight, narrow spaces like Marshall wanting him to do. It's just stupid.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, it was completely hampered by that setup and that system. I think completely. I agree with that. And I thought his performance against Forest, I thought it was the full package. Tackling.
Yeah, I agree.
Tackling, how he used the ball. He striking the ball when he was having a shot as well. It was good shot shooting. I just thought it was the full midfield performance, and it's just the type of performance you would not have had under a Marsh with the system alone. And his partner, his midfield partner, Weston McKennie. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. You were looking at him going, he is class. That's what I thought when I watched it. He was class. The technique. His technique and the way he moves his body. And we've seen that before, the way he can kind of move and the way he can use space and everything. But like you say, his passing, I mean, I was like, wow, where's that come from? Because every pass
we've not seen any of that. Yeah. No, we've not seen any of that.
No. I mean, for me, I mean, is that instructional from the manager? Is that training? I mean, you just wonder, don't you?
It would appear so.
It's got to be an emphasis on it. They must have put an emphasis on
move it
quickly.
Kind of
thing. So I thought them two are fantastic.
It's been a blessing in disguise, Tyler going out. I hate to say it because he's still my player of the season. He is for what he's given us over the games that he's been involved in. But without him being injured, I do believe that we'd have started him in every one of them games. Yeah. And it would have been a question of whether we play the three midfield and he would have been in place of Aronson, or whether one of them two misses out and we go with the same formation that we've been playing, but McKennie or Roca sit on the bench. And the problem, one of the other problems for Roca that Roca's had with being partnered next to Adams is because Adams is not really capable of doing any of what McKennie is. Roca's then expected to do it all, which then it brings the focus of the opponent onto him. You shut him down when he's in possession, you've got a problem. We don't have that now because Roca can shift it to McKennie and McKennie can do the same things that Roca can. He hasn't got the limitations on him that Adams has got. I don't want us to be without Adams. I think Adams is a great player, but I don't see how he works alongside just one of them. I just don't see it working. I can see Adams being perfect in a 4-3-3 when we're playing against the top 5, the top 6, and we're maybe setting up a little bit more defensively and he's the DM and then you've got them two in front of you. But I struggle to see how he really works in a grassier team alongside Roca or McKennie individually.
I think it's a fascinating point. I really do, because we didn't miss him. We didn't miss him,
No,
and
we haven't.
those two offer more in terms of what they can do with the passing range and the way they move, and they were tackling. They were doing Adam's job as well. You know, they were getting
McKennie,
involved.
man, that tackle in second half,
That sliding
it was
tackle.
class. I know it's only one tackle, but it was such a good tackle, and it got us instantly back on the counter.
Yeah, you wonder how Adams is going to feature in a Gracia team, really. And I know we might not even see it. We don't know what the future's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, if Adams is out and if Gracia even stays at the club, you know, we'll chat about that later on. But that is going to be a fascinating conundrum for him, because when you look at what those two can offer, Roca and McKennie, we're not really missing anything else, are we?
I said it a few weeks ago, before Adams got injured. I'd have loved to have seen him at right back. I'd have loved for him to, you know, be able to fit all three of them in the team. Yeah. Adams at right back, he's played there a lot in the Champions League, in the Bundesliga. Like he's got that ability to do that, and he's got all the credentials to be able to do that. Like he certainly would do, in my opinion, right now, a better job than Christensen and Ayling are doing. So I would be probably fitting him in there. I would.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I don't think we'll have it as an issue this year anyway. He might, you know, make the bench for the last few games, but it'll be easy to say, oh, he's coming back into fitness, and he don't, you know, I don't think it'll be a selection headache for Gracia this season.
No, it's funny as well, isn't it, with the midfield? Like with Greenwood's nowhere near, is it, that central midfield? Whereas under Marsh, it was like, right, Greenwood, let's get you on, Greenwood. And you just, you know, and I don't want to make this about bashing Marsh, and we'll get more into it, but when you look at what Gracia's done and some of the simple decision making and logical things, playing with width, you know, and things, it's just, you know, how much time did we waste under Marsh?
Even when he makes subs, he makes them, and you think that makes tactical sense. He hasn't just done it like it's been pre-scripted. Like Marsh's subs sometimes reminded me of when you play under 13s football and you've told the kid that's not very good that he's coming on with 20 minutes to go. That's what it reminded me of. Like, don't matter how the game's going, we can be winning 2-1 or you know, 5-0 down. You're coming on with 20 minutes to go, and it's like, why? Like the other day when he brought Aronson off for Rodrigo and he left Bamford on, made sense. Like the obvious solution to give Rodrigo minutes at that moment would have been to swap him direct for Bamford, but it made sense to do it that way. So it's apple and oranges, mate. It's totally different between him and Marsh.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And it's just funny because I mean, I remember when Marsh came in and he was like, great, you know, I think he got asked who's it impressed you the most since you came in. He was like, Sam Greenwood, and you were like, Sam Greenwood? Do you mean the guy who's played as a second striker and you're trying to convert into a midfielder? What is going on?
Bielsa did it as well, though.
Well, I know.
Bielsa played in there too.
God, I know. Honestly, what is going on? Surely not Bielsa as well. Bloody hell. Other players you mentioned there as well, just before we got onto the central midfielders, Jack Harrison. We should mention as well, Jack Harrison has signed a new contract now as well, so it seems to have put to bed all the unrest in the January transfer window. I mean, for me, is he reborn under Javi Gracia? It looks like it.
I've seen some fans kicking off that he's been rewarded with this new contract because of the 2 or 3 good games, and I'm like, honestly, I don't know why I get so involved in it, Brownie, on Twitter, because
you do, don't you?
I can't help it. Like, I'm looking at my Twitter now, and I've got this moron that I've been debating with about Juni Thurpo for the last 2 nights, right? And it blows my mind how stupid these people are. Like, they are just so brain dead. And Jack Harrison has not been rewarded because of these 2 or 3 good games, or 5 good games even under Gracia. We're protecting our asset. Like, he's got a year left after this. It makes business sense, like, to get him on a new contract. And the fact is that, you know, come the summer, he still may go to Leicester. But we are now far more in a strong position to be able to say to Leicester, well, actually, you know, that 25 million that we agreed, we actually now want 30. We want 35. And so, you know, a fully on it, Jack Harrison is as good as any player in our team, probably with the exception of Sinisterra and maybe Nonto's natural ability. Certainly in them wing positions, he's right up there. Jack Harrison's problem is in his head. It's a confidence player, and he blows hot and cold. He does. Like, we've seen this before with him, where he has 6, 7, 8 good games, and then he'll just disappear for 5 or 6. Now, I would be absolutely delighted to see him just pull this off every week now for the rest of the season, or be 7 or above in every game. That's what he should be doing at 26-year-old now. He should be the man that is pulling us through this, because he's experienced now. He's been here a long time. He's got bags of ability. He should be in and around his prime now. So, what he gave us the other night, it was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. He put them to the sword. Still made mistakes from time to time, but you don't mind that as long as it's coming with the offset that sometimes it comes off, and he don't let it. It doesn't, when it doesn't go right, he doesn't let it drag his whole game down. There's no need for that.
No, exactly. And it can't be a coincidence that the new manager's in and it's changed for him, can it? I mean, it can't, can it?
I mean, he was been asked to play as a number 10 or a really central winger. Like, Jack Harrison is an out-and-out winger. Yeah. He is a winger. He cannot play centrally. He's not built that way. He's not got, his crossing abilities, it can be really, really good. He needs to be out wide, whipping shots in, whipping crosses in. It builds his confidence up. He's quite quick. His first touch is phenomenal. His first touch is as good as anybody in the league, I would say. Yeah. He's got the ability to pluck a ball dead. For me, props to him recently and certainly, on Tuesday night, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, there's an article actually that's come out in the Telegraph that what I read earlier, and he's talking about Gracia and the attention to detail, where it's literally you need to stand 2 millimeters left of where you stood, and I love to hear stuff like that, because that says to me there's a plan, there's a real.
He knows what he wants.
Yeah,
he absolutely knows what he wants.
It's not just running down the middle of the goal, and trying to, just go centrally. There's a real specific plan, and I think someone like Harrison will thrive there. And look, I've been super critical of Harrison all season. I think he's had a woeful season.
Yeah,
woeful season. But when you get a manager in then who changes the system, it feels better. It passes the eye test. And then you start to get performances. And you're absolutely right. We're protecting our asset. Diego Llorente signed a contract, and he's protecting your asset. That's what you do. That's a smart move. I don't care what anyone says.
He's English. He's 26. His potential, he's probably got enough in his locker if he's playing consistent. If he were to play to his absolute peak for 12 months, you'd be talking about him being in the England side. You would.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, well, he was getting close before. Don't forget.
First season in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's getting close. He had good numbers. I think he had better numbers than Grealish or something ridiculous. Like, he had real top numbers that first season. And then obviously last season, torpedo. Yeah, indeed. On the other side, then Sinisterra. I mean, where we would have been if he'd have been fit all season. But I mean, what a player.
Again, Browne, we're talking about fans being just oblivious to what they're looking at. Some were saying after the Arsenal game, dog shit. Sorry for swearing. Shouldn't be. Shouldn't have bought him. We need to sell him. Get rid of him. And I'm like, you honestly, it blows my mind. Like, yeah, he's had injuries, but the reason that Leeds United were able to sign him after finishing 17th was because of his injury record. That lad has got all the potential and ability to be just as good as Rafinha. He doesn't have the injury record to back it up at the moment. And he probably, given what we've seen of his injury record, will probably continue to have long periods of the season out injured. It just unfortunately follows some players. But that, St. Maximin is another one I would put in that kind of category. If St. Maximin was fully fit all the time, he would be probably a top 4 Champions League player. Sinisterra is similar, and hopefully for him, he manages to throw that off and does get some 35 game seasons in, 30 game seasons in, and if he does, he probably will be leaving us for 40, 50, 60 million quid, because that's how much he's got in the locker. Like, every time he's fully fit, he comes up with moments like what we saw on Tuesday.
I know the ball drops to him, and the way he shrugs people off, and the clever little turns, and it's the decision making for me, Jason. It's what we don't really have that across the team as a whole. The composure and the decision making is just on point, and the fact that he can score these great goals. I mean, the one he scored against Barnsley in the cup, against Everton at home, where he just seemed to score it out of nothing. If he stays fit for the rest of the season, you're confident going into every game that he can damage teams. It is just that thing of staying fit. I mean, when he limped off at Old Trafford, and you thought, oh, this is what a shame. It's just so difficult. And I think Gracia's doing right by getting minutes in his legs. Just go for it. Get minutes in your best player's legs.
For me, he's by far our most talented player. Like, it is just the injury record that comes with it. There were a moment in the first half where I can't remember if it was before or after he scored. It must have been before, because we scored right at the end of the afternoon. He had it right by the touchline, and he used his body and then cut in off the left hand, basically right on the throwing line. And he made so much space for himself, and he took about 4 or 5 players out of the game because they were all just surrounding him, and he literally just decimated a lot of them. He's super, super talented. And he's got a bit of a chip. He's got confidence. He's got the confidence that Rafinha had. When everybody else is struggling to keep their head in the game, he's the one that can kind of separate himself from the anxiety and the stress of the crowd and the pressure of the situation. He don't care. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how vital that he's kind of dropped in as Nonto's become injured, because there are some similarities in terms of that coolness of brain and making the right decision and that kind of thing. But I think Sinisterra's level is just...
We are not for any second, being negative towards Nonto as a kind of spin-off to this. Nonto's just turned 19. He's got loads of potential. His ceiling is probably just as high, maybe even higher than Sinisterra. Yeah. We don't know that yet, but he's raw, and Sinisterra is far more of a final product. Man United spent 90 million quid on Antony, somebody that had less goal contributions in the Eredivisie last season than Sinisterra did. Yeah, he's a top player. The only reason that he wasn't bought was because of the ACL operation that he had a couple of 18 months ago. So that's the only reason he ended up at Leeds United. And you best believe that he's ended up at Leeds United because we've sold a pathway project for him, like we did with Rafinha. Like,
100%, and fair enough. We'll keep having having these brilliant players, and maybe one day my dream would be we get the takeover and we grow, and one day we get to keep players of that ilk.
We finish, I'm not saying that we will, but we finish 7th next season, qualify for the Europa League or the Europa Conference or whatever. Yeah. A player like Sinisterra then was like, right, okay, I can see where this is going. Give me, 20% extra on my wages. I'll sign a new contract to stay for another couple of years, and we'll see where we are in 12, 18 months, 24 months time.
Yeah, by the way,
I'm all right with that.
By the way, Rafinha was very happy at Leeds after that first season. There was a contract mooted and everything, because it looked like it was just going up and up and up. Yeah. That's what players need. They need, to think this is going somewhere, rather than just dying a death.
Rafinha is the top goal contributions in the whole of La Liga this season, by the way.
Wow.
The top man. Yeah, he had a bit of a tough start to the season, but thereafter he's banging it out. And Barcelona are miles ahead of Real Madrid. So this is the player that we've had go through. And Sinisterra, I think, is a very similar. I don't know if he's got quite as much ability as Rafinha. And Rafinha didn't have any injury record. Like, Rafinha would play every week, a bit like Jack Harrison. Like, they just don't get injured. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's the difference. Anyway,
absolutely. Someone else that I want to have a little chat about as well, who impressed against Forest, and I'm really happy for him, is Pascal Struijk. Because if we look at Struijk's season, played at left back, out of position. Actually, was fairly decent at left back at first. I thought he was, okay. He was okay, and in fact had some very good performances left back. And then it started to tail off, and it started to get quite poor. He had a shocker against Cardiff in the cup when he was centre back. You're thinking, Pascal, mate, that is your position, man. You should be, you're not left back, you're centre back. Let's do this. But how good is it to see that he put in a performance like that? Because yes, he's you know, he's not up to Verba's level. He's not, you know,
No.
he's not going to be able to do what Verba did, but it felt like our Pascal a bit again, the guy that has got all the potential in the world. You know, it felt like we were seeing a bit of that again. I mean, what did you make of how he got on?
I've had some back and forward about Strike on Twitter as well.
Oh, surprise.
Well, more because people just live like they don't see it with open eyes. I don't think. Like Verba for me is the biggest miss out of the 3 injured players. I said that when they all went down kind of at the same time. I said he would be the one that we missed the most. Now going into the Arsenal game, you know, I don't want to use the word free pass, but I suppose it maybe is that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a catastrophe if we lose that game, but not having Verba for that game and probably the 2 games thereafter, i.e. Forest and then Palace, for me, that was a massive deal before going into that Arsenal game. That's a huge loss. Cooper's clearly either not fit or not fancied by Gracia, because I think he'd have been back in the side by now if he was, given Verba's injury and whatnot. And Striker were coming on the back of this massive confidence issue that he'd had, been out of the team. He'd had an injury himself as well. So for me, Verba missing was massive. It was a real chasmalistic. What that word of a problem? Catastrophe. It was. It's that big of a problem. He's been that he's made that much of a difference to our back line, along with Gracia coming in and making us more solid. I felt like we'd seen everything to say that was a massive issue, but people were taking it like, oh no, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Like Strike will come in and just seamlessly. No. Now against Arsenal, I thought it was quite poor. I just think he were a bit of a passenger. I think the game were going on and around him, and he weren't really commanding. You know, Verba gets in front of 3 or 4 chances a game. Strike weren't doing that, and I'm not saying that he should, you know, replace him exactly, but that's what you have a squad for. Somebody comes in when somebody else is out, and they try and replicate as best as they can. Now, thankfully, against Forest, you know, he did have a much better game, and I thought second half he was fantastic. I thought he played really well. First half, I still think he had moments. You know, I personally, and it might be me being critical, but the goal comes from Ayling doing Ayling things, and then Strike doesn't. If you watch the goal again, if you know you're trying to be unbiased, Strike doesn't get out to close the shot down. He stands up. He kind of squirms away from it, and Mangala whips it around and puts it in bottom corner. Now, in my opinion, if Verba's in the team there, that shot gets blocked. You watch it back. If he takes Strike's position, which he would have done, Verba blocks it. Now, I'm not being super critical. I get it. What I am saying is if we are, you know, we're 1-0 down then after that, what if we just don't find a shooting boots like we did against Fulham or against Forest away, and we don't turn that round at the other end? Now, thankfully, we played much better going the other way. But you get my point. Like for me, Verba's a massive miss. But thankfully, Strike had a really good second half. I thought he was, you know, much more commanding. He had a presence. You know, he made one massive block in the second half, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm after. And hopefully he builds his confidence back up. I think Sunday is a massive challenge for him. Massive. Because Palace are a bit of a funny side. They've not got bags full of goals, but they've got bag loads of creativity. And they will make chances. You know, they had 30 odd chances against Leicester the other day. Like how they weren't miles ahead. So massively happy for him, delighted for him, because I like him. Like he's, you know, I always find it strange that fans, you know, would rather prove their point than be wrong for the beneficial of the team. That's not what it is. Like I would much rather, you know, say we didn't miss Verba. I'll be delighted if we don't miss Verba because Strike's playing that well. But everything that we've seen says that we will. You know what I mean? And I'm going to analyze stuff like that.
No, absolutely. And I think that's part of my frustration with it sometimes. It is how some of the promotion players have always kind of, you know, people are just ready to kind of, no, it's not their fault. It's not their fault, you know, and whereas the new players, you know, I you know, I know a lot of people don't like Aronson and think he's underperformed, and I get that, and I think he has underperformed. But I think at the same time, I'm thinking sometimes I think the criticism is a bit OTT, and I think the promotion players get sometimes the benefit. I mean, I have to say, I think history's been a little bit rewritten about Click as well, and people making out that he was everything this season. It's just simply not true. It's not true. Like, let's not pretend just because he's one. I love Click. I absolutely
same.
I love his personality. I love his quirkiness. I love the shithousery, everything. But he was not an effective player for 18 months. I don't care what anybody says.
You best believe as well, Brownie, if Christensen was putting in these performances that Aylin's putting in at the moment, he would be hung out. He would
100%.
But Bill gets away with it, and I don't want to. We don't need to go heavy in it, but he needs to come out of the team. Like he
does.
He's been so. I mean, unfortunately, that then means bringing Rasmus in, and we're not sure, how much he's going to be able to offer us right now either. But given the circumstances,
Just before we go on to win, I just want to finish on strikers. I thought he found his passing range that second half as well, which was impressive. And I'm just interested to see what you think about Cooper. Where's Cooper now in this team? Because I don't see him getting back in, and I'm kind of, I don't want to say pleased, because again, Liam Cooper is one of the favourites from the promotion team, who I think fantastic servant for the club. But I'm almost glad that it hasn't just gone back to we'll stick Cooper in. I'm almost glad that actually no, we have to move forward. We have to move past these type of players.
Grassia's prepared to do that, where Jesse Marsh clearly weren't. Cooper came back fit and Cooper came back in. And I mean, I think there's been times this season where we would have really benefited from having Cooper, in my opinion. I'm not saying that that's right, but I think there's been times where I think we'd have really benefited from having Cooper in there over having an underperforming strike. Certainly before we got Verba, I felt like that. So, there were times earlier on in the season where we had Llorente and Koch together and stuff like that. Like, it just...
God help us.
I know. My opinion is that I think Cooper's days are probably done for being a first-team player. I could see him being around next season if Grassia's here. Very much club captain, on the bench, plays the cup games, it would be maybe fourth or fifth choice. But the facts are, right now, we brought a centre-back on, or we brought a defender on in the last minute against Forest. Cooper sat on the bench and Christensen came on at centre-back. That's the truth. That's what happened. So that's telling you where... Because you can't tell me that Cooper couldn't have managed with the fitness level that he's got 2 minutes. So it's clear that he's not fancied by Grassia. So...
which is fair enough.
It's absolutely fair enough.
Let's move on. You got Pascal Struijk, who needs minutes and needs confidence, and has played well against Forest. Let's keep that going. Let's not interrupt that. Let's not stop that. God, who else was going to talk? Oh, well, we've got to deal with it. We've got to deal with it. You've touched on it already, but Aylin. I won't say what I said during the Arsenal game, because honestly, I had to get my blood pressure checked. Because
he had a stinker, didn't he?
He was flapping as he could not control the football. He was flapping, nervous, and I'm torn about it, because obviously it's one of them. It's the promotion. I love his character. I love everything about him, but he's such a liability. And against Forest as well, he's such a liability.
It feels like he's got worse. I don't know if you agree with that. Like, it feels like he started doing things that he didn't used to do defensively that's catching him out all the time. Like, against Arsenal and then against Forest as well, he kept on squaring himself up against tricky wingers. I'm like, what are you doing? There were a moment in I think it was the second half, and it was on the far right-hand touch line, pretty much on the throwing line. I can't remember if it might have been Dennis or I can't remember who it was exactly, but he basically just knocked it round him. And because Aylin was stood square up, the winger had gone, and he had like 5 or 10 yards on Aylin before Aylin had even managed to turn round. Like, it's just basics. Lack of concentration. There were moments against Arsenal where he just totally switched off. I mean, Martinelli was a very good player, but he had him on toast, man.
What annoys me, though, Jason, is the fact that Cody Drama came in against Arsenal in that depleted team, didn't have a good game against Martinelli, and got written off by 3/4 of the fan base. Cody Drama, forget it. And this was a young lad This is a young lad who'd had no time. He's not been given any run of games.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, he should have been given a run of games. And I'm sorry, for me, it should have been between Drama and Christiansen this year. And I think Ayling should have played a smaller and smaller part, because he's had 2 good games against Manchester United, and that is it. Now, he still does. The thing I'm wondering from Gracia's point of view, is it because he makes those, he's still got the stamina to get up and down and make those runs, those runs to the opposition byline? And is that keeping him in the team, the fact that it still opens things up for the team?
I think Christensen,
I don't know what else he's bringing.
I think Rasmus just offers so little going forward.
He does.
He's so limited, and he's so poor on the ball. Like, watching him in centre midfield against Arsenal was just horrific. Like, he'd get the ball passed to him, and he'd just, I don't know what to do. Like, he kept on turning 90 degrees like this. Like, it is so bad. So I think he gets back in because he's just the best of the bad bunch. Like, he's the only. I have absolutely no doubt if Drama had been with Gracia for a month before the end of January, we wouldn't have been sending him out on loan. I mean, he's absolutely ripping it up for Luton. Luton are flying, by the way. Like, they've actually gone on since Nathan Jones left, which is hilarious. They're a small club with a tiny budget. They have no right to be battling in playoffs. But anyway, that's a different story. Drama, for me, this is if he wants to come back, because he's had a bit of an hard time at Leeds. We might have bridges with him. Yeah, I'll be good with him too. He'll have a big career. He was the one out of the whole of that 23 bunch, Joffe, Sam Greenwood, all of them. I watched countless of them games. He was the best one out of that whole group. Yeah. He was. And he was the one probably that got the most limited minutes out of the best of the group. So, and that's because Ayling was dependable, I think. I think it must have been.
It just boggles the mind. It really does. And I think, I'll be gutted if he leaves. I really will, because he was a prospect at Fulham. You heard about the guy Cody Drama at Fulham, and the fact that we got him from Fulham, we pinched him, we got him to Leeds, and he's just been given nothing at all. He's been, and I even count that under Bielsa as well. Bielsa he didn't give him a sniff even. I mean, I would look. Can you imagine? How old is he? 21-year-old Cody Drama bombing on now up and down that right flank.
He's like a winger. He's like a winger that can defend. He's an unbelievable fullback.
How much are you going to have to pay to get a right back for what we want, a wing back for what we want? How much are you going to pay? And I know, did Ayling get a contract extension as well?
1 year. 1 year.
Just move on. Move on from it. It's not worked with Rasmus at all. Rasmus is not what we thought we were getting. I thought we were getting, the T1000 up and down the wing. He was going to wing back, crossing, everything. We've not had that at all. Looks very limited. Who knows? Could surprise us all like
he'll be the one to leave, Rasmus, I think. Yeah. He'll be the one to leave. He'll go either back to Austria or maybe a Bundesliga team will pick him up. And I think we'll have Ayling and Drama if he wants to come back, and maybe another right back. I think we may still go with 3. But if that's the case, Ayling would have to be prepared to be a major fringe player. He comes in like Coops maybe when we are desperate, cup games, and that's it, unfortunately.
It can't go on. It can't just go on year after year after year, and we've really got to upgrade. I mean, I'm when I was watching it, and I was fuming with him, and and the person I watched it with said, well, what do you expect for someone you signed for, 700,000 from Yeovil or whatever? And you go, the guy has made it huge. Right. His trajectory is incredible. He's climbed all the way up. He got released at Arsenal. He's climbed all the way back. He's got to the Premier League. Been a fantastic player for Leeds United, no doubt, but it's just so frustrating. And my worry is Gracia can be a tactical masterclass, and it gets undone by a stupid error. Yeah. We can't have that, Jason. We can't have that going forward. You just can't.
Well, he's getting beat by basic Premier League wingers. He's not facing Gabriel Martinelli every week.
No,
we're going to be going in against. I mean, I really rate Harvey Barnes. I think he's class act. Yeah. But we're going to play Leicester in a few weeks. He's going to be against him. We're going to play against Bournemouth, and they've got some, tricky wingers, bottom of the Premier League, quality, top of the Championship, and they're going to rip him apart. He's going to be the player that they aim at. I've been a massive Firpo basher up until about 8 games ago. And that's this is one of the debates. I don't live by, Firpo's now playing well. I am not going to sit and say 12 months ago I could see Firpo was going to be a great Premier League player. It's rubbish. Anybody that says that they saw that is talking horse. They're just talking waffle, Brownie, because it didn't exist. Now, Firpo has managed to turn it round, I think, through a combination of confidence, settling in, the style suits him better, and he has clearly got a group of things that I think Verba's made a difference. I think Verba's helped him, because otherwise it's just coincidence. And Verba's come in and then Firpo's got better. But it feels to me like he's marshalled him in a certain way. In that game, their only danger man, really, we know this, is Brennan Johnson. He's the only player really that's making anything happen for Forest. And Firpo boxed him. He absolutely boxed him off. He had Johnson going mad. His head had gone come the end of the game. To be fair, it had gone after about 60, 65 minutes. Firpo had him in his pocket. And, it's testament to the lad, because he really has. He's had an hard time at Leeds. And not a single Leeds fan wanted it to carry on like that. We all wanted it to come round, and thankfully it has.
Well, that clip into where the through ball goes through and Firpo's chasing back, and just, the determination and the just, you didn't see that from Firpo at all. So there's no way anybody could have called that. He looked lightweight before, totally lightweight. Would you bring Rasmus in for Ayling? Would you drop for more defensive solidity?
It's really tough. I think I would. I think I probably would. But for the Palace game, I would. I think Christensen's got less mistakes in him. I think that's the big thing. I know he offers us less going forward, but I think given Palace's threats in them areas of the pitch, I probably would. But I don't think he will.
No.
I know it's a different question, but I don't think he will.
I think he's just kind of trusting Ayling, isn't he? And going, right, you've got the position, just at least offer us something going forward. For me, it's risky, but
I think there's a lot to be said as well for, the captain, vice captain situation. I know it's not about football ability, but in terms of how you keep the group together as best as possible, because that's still important, especially at this stage of the season. Leaving Cooper on the bench and then dropping Ayling and leaving him on the bench. I don't know whether it'd be smart. If I were in the manager's shoes right now, I can understand why that wouldn't make a lot of sense mentally. Forgetting the physical ability of what it's like to be a Premier League right back, I think I can understand why that maybe wouldn't make sense for other reasons.
No, absolutely. Another player I just wanted to touch on with you as well, Patrick Bamford, which was his first touch wasn't there. He couldn't pass. He couldn't run with the ball, but he could still kind of physically be a nuisance to
just
defenders.
Occupies defenders, doesn't he? He just occupies defenders.
Well, that was literally it.
Yeah, that's the only way you can put it. I still hark back to what I said a few weeks ago about, his injuries and the long-lasting kind of damage it has on his psyche and his, his confidence and what it does to his body. And his mind says that he can get there and he physically just can't, because he's just that second off. And I think that still all exists. And I think he's had enough time now to kind of really get himself back into fully fit mode. It's a bit like a boxer sparring. You can feel all right in sparring, but then when you get to the night of the fight, you've not quite got it. I think that's where Bamford's at. I bet he looks dynamite in training. I bet he doesn't have these issues. And then it comes to Saturday and he struggles. And I think we'll continue to see that. I think for me, he is unfortunately one that has to be seen through the door come the summer. I really do. I think we desperately need a reliable number 9 that can give us 10 or 15 goals a season, that's going to be able to play 35 out of 38 games.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I just think he's got the halo on him as well as Bamford. I think he kind of gets away with dreadful performances.
Yeah.
Just there were a bit where he had the ball the other night and it was the easiest pass forward for a potential chance.
I remember you texting me on it.
I just hit the roof. I was just like, this is unbearable. I can't watch this guy play football anymore. It's that bad.
The one that drove me more with the chance that he had when Felipe and...
didn't even get it on target.
I know. I used to play up front, and it when you're in that much time and space, you have no excuse to not get the shot on target.
Yeah.
Like, he had so much time. I mean, he's not even at a bad angle. He's about, I don't know, 8-9 yards out.
Yeah.
At best. He has to score for me.
What?
I mean,
I thought after the Brighton game when he smacked in that goal with the right foot, I thought, oh, there we go. That might catch light now. But I don't know why is he still in the team then? Why is Gracia still trusting? Is it no one else, or is it Rutter didn't impress when he played centre forward himself, or Rodrigo's not fit enough?
I think Rodrigo's not fit. I think Rodrigo's just not fit enough to play 90 minutes or play even 70 minutes. I think that's where it's at. I think Pat has got the physical attributes to do the 70 minutes and kind of link play and do all the other scruffy stuff. He's quicker than Rodrigo over the ground as well, and all the things that come with it. But it isn't from being a goal scorer for sure.
No.
Yeah.
Do you worry that? Sorry, mate. Yeah, I was going to say, do you worry that some of these old guard have got a grip on the club though, and it's like we're never going to get rid of them? We're going to be. I don't want to be kind of harsh about it all, but it feels to me like it's going to be an effort to kind of make a refresh in that sense a little bit potentially.
I felt like that under Marsh. I don't feel like that under Gracia.
Yeah,
I think Gracia's got a good grip of it, mate. I think he's probably got enough about him to be able to say he needs to move on.
Yeah.
From what I've seen anyway, just the fact that he's got enough about him to drop Cooper and leave Cooper out of the team. When his best centre-back goes down injured, he didn't look for the easy option, put the captain back in. He put Striker back in. So I hope not. I don't get that gut feeling that that's the case. I think a lot of it depends on what happens in the summer, though, with Gracia himself, the 49ers. I mean, I'll tell you him off stream. I'm not going to tell you on stream, but I've got a friend that's actually just started working at Leeds. Working in recruitment, and he's told me a couple of stories about good old Victor. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to for it. Just for somebody to see it and for it to come back and it be obvious where it's come from. So I'm just not.
We'll I'll have a little catch up with you about that after, definitely. Just in terms of bigger picture with Gracia, then it's interesting again because I've heard some people are already getting ready to worship him as the second coming. Other people are hesitant. I heard on a podcast today, actually on The Athletic, they were saying the underlying numbers would point to say that he's been a bit lucky. I don't agree with that personally because he passes the eye test, what I'm seeing from him. Where do you stand on Gracia at the moment? Is it too early to say, let's give him the job going forward? Or do you like what you've seen enough to go that actually this guy, how he is tactically, we can move forward with him after the end of the season?
I certainly can see why Watford fans were liking him and were very much in the position of he'll stay up, he'll be the man. Like, I can see why they liked him. I think he's tactically astute. I think he's calm. I think he changes what he wants per game for the opponent, and I like that. Like, you can't just be, even Bielsa, you can't just be a one size fits all, especially with the level of the ability that we've got compared to some of the opponents that we're playing. I don't subscribe to the idea that he's just been lucky at all. I think the games that we've won against the three teams around us, he's played exactly the way in all three that he needed to get the best out of the players, given the confidence levels, given what he had at his disposal, the time that he had with the players. Going into that Southampton game, he had no time before that game. And we came out with a 1-0 win, a clean sheet, which we'd not had in God knows how long. We weren't lucky that day. They had nothing, really. We didn't play particularly well either, but we did enough to win the game. So, no, I don't believe in that. If I were going to score what he's done out of 10, I'd say probably an 8. I'd find it hard to give him a 9 or a 10 when he's, gone to Chelsea and we, given the state that they're in, sacking Potter not long after, we'd have probably got him the sack if we'd have won that game. We come out of there losing 1-0. Some of that were just individual mistakes, a corner, that we could have defended better, but still, we didn't come out of that game with anything when really we maybe should. And then we lose against Arsenal and Fulham in the cup. I'd find it hard to say that he would deserve anything less than an 8, given what he took over. I mean, this guy's won 3 league games out of 6, and we'd won 4 out of the previous 23. Like,
says everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, and as for like giving him the job and the new Messiah and all that, like I don't think we need to rush. One of the things that the club did really well was actually do this on a flexible contract situation, because it gave him something to drive for. He's not got the security of, you know, not having a job at the end of the season and him getting paid off a year or anything like that. It makes sense. We stumbled into it, but we made the best of what, you know, we then gave us. And I think, you know, if at the end of the season we're in a position where, you know, let's say we finish 13th, 14th, I would be very much in favour of giving Gracia the job.
Yeah.
No problem with that at all. I would also not be against, you know, we're taking the club in this direction. The 49ers are coming in. Here's, you know, whoever, Gallardo, and we're giving him a 5-year deal. And this is the structure that we want to go in. And these are the players that are going to facilitate this shift to this new system. I'd be okay with either. And I could understand either. You know, Gracia has not really got a CV to say that he's going to be here in 5 years' time.
No,
that's not, you know, what. And maybe this could be the one-off, but you get what I mean. So I can understand both sides.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, no, I agree with that, because you still think there's some exciting managers that could become available in the summer potentially, but then, you know, I think his whole persona and how he has handled everything, I just think, you know, I found myself today, you know, searching his name on Twitter to see what people were saying about him and what journalists are saying about him and what the vibe is. And we stumbled on it, but it's especially funny now because you're watching the other teams now, you know, Palace sacked their manager, Moyes under pressure after the thumping last night, Cooper nearly going at Forest, Leicester have sacked their manager, you know, and you think, because I was thinking we were late, like sacking our manager and doing it. And then you look at them teams, you go, oh my God, you're in an even worse mess.
I think as well, Brownie, and I mean, it was completely by accident. And we all, you know, we'd got to the point where we were like, just bang Nuno in and just do this and just do that. We were desperate. I actually think now, seeing what he was able to do, and I'm not going to say that, you know, I said this before because I didn't. I remember when Gracia got mentioned and he came and we had a chat and I understood it. It made sense. Looked a little bit into, you know, what Watford fans were saying, and I built up the picture for why it made sense. I actually think accidentally he's been the perfect replacement in February. Now, I'm not saying, if I'd have known that this was the potential, if you'd have offered me in October, I'd have wanted us to go down a Postecoglou, you know, another route.
Emery at Villa type of thing.
I'd have wanted us to go down. But given when the club did it, and the position that put us in, the compromised position that put us in, I actually think Gracia is perfect. From what we've seen, I think he's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, no, absolutely 100%. Moving on then, it's Palace up next. A huge game. Potentially, if we win it, we get to that 30-point mark. We'd be on 32 points, then we'd leapfrog Palace, would be in 12th. Is it must win to you, Jason, or where do you stand with it? Must not lose, or what's your vibe with it?
Ooh, it's a tricky question. Man.
Yeah, because after beating Forest, it feels a little bit more like we don't need to win it, but my God, what an opportunity this is.
I think it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think going into, we're still dealing with going into them last 4 games, and you're probably looking at Newcastle and City and saying, you know, them two are going to be really, really tough. Then Spurs and West Ham are really winnable. So we have got other winnable games after Palace, but I still feel like we have to be targeting 3 points in every single home game that we've got. And it's obviously not must win after beating Forest, because the season's not over, even if we lose and go back into the bottom 3. It's not. But for me, to carry momentum and carry feeling, Palace still, you know, really struggling. They're, you know, one of the worst teams in the league, and from a form perspective, I still think this is a must win.
Yeah.
It certainly is a must not lose.
Yeah.
Because it kind of undoes a lot of the work that we did on Tuesday and against Wolves if we do lose, especially at home. So
what did you make of them going back to Roy Hodgson?
I mean, you know, my feelings on Vieira, I think, is a bit of a myth as a manager.
Linked with Leeds, by the way.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I think it's probably the only appointment really, or one of the only appointments given when they chose to do it, very similar to our situation, that actually made a bit of sense. Came in, knows the players. Like, it's never going to pull up trees, but I think he'll do enough with what he's got to keep them up. It makes them better defensively, and they've probably got enough creativity, like I said earlier, to score on the goals. I think, however, we kind of didn't touch on this, I think Forest are horrific. I think they're one of the worst sides. Well, they are probably the worst side in the league. I think the worse than Southampton, even though the position in the table doesn't reflect that. I think they're terrible.
They were absolutely dire. I mean, when they beat us at their ground, I mean, it was just they were.
Well, Navas had a balling game, didn't he? It was like his debut, I think, or his second game or something, and he was just unreal that day. And but you know what? Everything happens for a reason. Blessing in disguise. It meant that Marsh got sacked. So
it's silver lining, isn't it? Exactly.
Yeah.
We'd have still been stuck with him if we'd have won that. Michael, thank you for your comment, mate. Gracia has similar qualities to Bielsa in how he carries himself. He's quiet spoken, very humble, down to earth. It's not about him, but the football and the players. Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah, that's what comes across, and I agree with that.
What's that? Calm.
Yeah,
so calm.
I love it. I love his manner and how he is. He's the polar opposite to Marsh. I'm not saying I disliked Marsh, but when the results aren't there, and you're just talking.
Just hot air, mate. It was just all hot air.
No, it doesn't fly. So, Jason, I'm going to be cruel.
I want to fire that back at you before we go on.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a must-win? How do you feel about Sunday?
Do you know, I think it is, actually. I think it is because of how tight the table is. And when you look at those games we've got later on, April had to be our month. April has to be our month when we get our points on. I think it's just too big of an opportunity playing Crystal Palace at home. They don't have Zaha in the team. They don't have Zaha available. I think it's just too big of an opportunity. But I don't expect us to win it.
The teams around us
to win it. I feel like a draw is probably the most likely outcome. Unfortunately,
the teams around us have all got difficult games apart from Bournemouth and Leicester. They play each other, so 3 points for us would psychologically be massive. We'd go 9 points in front of Southampton, I think it is. Yeah. Is that right? And we'd go I think we'd be 5 points clear if the results go the way that they should. Now, they probably all won't go exactly the same way, but, it'd give us some serious breathing space going into some of these, more difficult games.
100%. I mean, what did you make of West Ham getting stuffed as well? I mean, Newcastle. I saw Newcastle against Manchester United. I saw Newcastle against Forest. That's how you want your team to play, isn't it?
But I've got to say, West Ham was shocking, mate. I mean, did you see the two Fabianski mistakes and Agard's mistake? Oh man,
shocking, isn't it?
It feels like they've gone offside from Moyes. That's what it feels like now. Like they're not playing for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at Leeds, and when they made that change under Gracia, it feels like, actually, like you said, perfect timing for a move like that. That fell late in the day, but now you're looking at it going, he's had enough time to implement his ideas and hopefully get us out of this.
I've got a West Ham, a good West Ham friend, and he's of the opinion that the team that went down, the West Ham team that went down a few years back with like Joe Cole and Defoe in it and stuff, is better than this team. I don't like. They had players that had potential that were better than what West Ham have got in their teams now. Obviously, the career that Defoe went on, Carrick and some of them players. Yeah. But I think the team that West Ham have got right now would be the best team to ever get relegated, in my opinion. They have got some serious ability in that team, all the way through Kurt Zuma, Fabianski, Declan Rice, Jared Bowen, Antonio, Scamacca. This is a team that were challenging for flirting with top 4, finishing 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that. Let's say it's a crazy turnaround. What's going on?
That? I mean, it's them like the Paqueta signing and Scamacca. I mean, Scamacca. I mean, it's just. It's just him and Moyes. It's not kind of a Moyes thing, is it? Though that kind of sign, it just
players like that, does it? Cresswell and Soufal and the big lad in midfield. I forget his name now. Souček. Like there's just some serious talent in that team, and for them to be scrapping around in 18th place. I mean, I'd say the same for Leicester as well. I think Leicester's, but That's football, isn't it?
Who have they got actually? West Ham, because they've got the game in hand on us.
West Ham have got their game in hands against Manchester City, doing it.
Yeah, I think because they play Fulham next. They have got a game. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because they've got a game 3rd of May squeezed in against Man City. Oh, that's good then.
It's not a game in hand, that is it?
That's not a game in hand, is it? Because we know that we had that one game in hand for ages, didn't we, against Man City, and it didn't mean bugger all. Good stuff. So we'll see where we get to with that, Jason. Predictions, mate. Score prediction. What are you saying?
2-0.
Oh, to Leeds, I hope you
mean. 2-0. Yeah,
come on, I'll take that.
I do think we can win at the weekend. And you know, if we do win on Sunday, I'm going to revise my opinion from a few weeks and say that we'll stay up.
Yeah.
I know I said what I said, and I believed it at the time. From the evidence in front of me, but as things are going on, and Sunday will be the turning point for me. If we can get another 3 points on Sunday, that takes us to 32 points. I think we need another 6 before the end of the season to stay up. I think it's going to be about 37, which is crazy, given how tight it is. Like, usually it doesn't work like that, but it's because nobody's just taking points off the bottom 2 constantly like they do in normal seasons. I still can't. I think it'll be Southampton, Forest, and one other.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at. I think Bournemouth will survive, mate.
Yeah,
I do. Every time I see him, I just think, you've got enough, you.
Yeah, they pick up the results, don't they? They're getting there. They are getting there. Yeah, I think. Unfortunately, I think it's going to either be a draw or something really horrible, like a 1-0 Palace win or something. My damaged Leeds psyche is coming to the fore there, where I'm just like, I can't. Winning 2 games on the trot, we don't do that, surely.
I think a loss would be devastating for us.
A loss would be brutal, but it throws us right back into it. It really, I mean, well, we are in it. I mean, it's only 2 points out of it, but yeah, a loss would be devastating. Let's go with your prediction, 2-0. We'll take that instead.
We're going to be in it until the end of the season. Like, even if we win on Sunday, we're still going to be flirting with this until really, really close to the end of the season. I just hope we don't go into the final 2 games needing 3 points or whatever. But
no, I mean, the flash forward for me would be, if we get new owners and the investment, and you look at Aston Villa, Emery, and they're just absolutely on it.
Crazy, aren't they? I mean, sometimes they don't even play well, but they come out scoring 2-3 goals. I mean, what he's done with Ollie Watkins, where has that form come from? Like, he's just smashing defenders all over the place. There's some of the goals he's scoring.
Transformed him, hasn't he? Absolutely transformed him.
I know this is random, but what about Isaac's goal yesterday? I know Fabianski made a howler, but he's just stood there with a hand on him. Just watching it go, he's just brilliant. I really rate him. What a player he is.
Fantastic.
What a player.
He is absolutely, honestly, his technique is unreal.
Yeah.
Do you see the goal against Forest? Where it kind of we're going across
behind him,
like a karate kick to get it in here like that.
I know he's not the same, and maybe it's just because he's Swedish, but he reminds me of Ibrahimovic. The way that he kind of moves because he's tall. I mean, he's about 6'3", 6'4", something like that. The way that he got, like, big men should not be able to move like that. But he can. Like, he's so talented.
His technique's unreal, isn't it? Yeah, so a great player. Good stuff. Well, Jason, have we covered everything, mate? Is there any stone left unturned? Before
I mean, we picked every player apart, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Went through the whole team.
We probably didn't talk enough about Forest as a collective, but they're just poor. They're just poor.
Do you think that it was the right decision to stick with Cooper?
I don't think he'll see the season out.
No.
I think it's the right decision. I don't think they've got a better option given the circumstances. They just bought too many players, Browne. They just bought too many players. You can't put a squad together like that. They'd have been better, and I know they had the reasons. I know that a lot of their players were on loan and stuff. I mean, I think they made a big mistake not going all in on James Garner, that's ended up warming reserves at Everton all season. He was a big part of their season. Doing what they did to Lewis O'Brien. Like, you can't help. Like, you're not telling me that Lewis O'Brien didn't make friends that's then not agreed with being left out of squad and all that. Like, it's just been badly managed. But Steve Cooper got him promoted last season. I think they'd see the fans go offside with the ownership if they decided to sack him now. Personally.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. As long as they take one of the slots, that's fine.
I don't care who goes down there. I've got no loyalty to anybody apart from Leeds United. I don't care. What about Lampard back to Chelsea? I know that we're going off on tangents, but how funny is that? Like, what are they playing at? Todd Bowley's lost the plot.
Oh, they don't have a clue what they're doing, do they? They don't have
a
goddamn clue. They don't have a clue what they're doing. Because, he's going into a dressing room. There's still a lot of the players there that were sick to the back teeth of Lampard when he left.
Yeah. Mason Mount will be happy.
Yeah. Mason Mount will be loving it. Yeah, that new contract will be getting signed any second. Won't it?
7-year deal.
It's football, man. It's just so bizarre. But they look absolutely clueless to Chelsea. Absolutely clueless.
Can you believe that they're only 10 points in front of us?
I know. Can you imagine?
It's crazy.
Yeah. If you'd have told me at the start of the season we'll just be 10 points behind Chelsea in April, I'd have gone, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, you're going to be cushy. We're going to be what, seventh?
Yeah. We're going to be Europa League
at worst,
or if they're having a really good season, might be Champions League or something. But it's absolutely great. What a crazy season. Desperation as well. I think it's record number of managers sacked as well. And
I think we're on about 14 now. We're 30.
Yeah. It's just it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers, isn't it? Good stuff. Well, if you've enjoyed watching, please smash a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel for more Leeds United content. We'll try and do something over the weekend, Jason, a match review if
I can do Sunday night.
If we get opportunity, we'll try and figure something in, see where we're at the other side of the weekend. But things are looking okay at the moment. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Stephen Browne. Alongside me has been Jayson Booker. Jason, thank you, mate.
Welcome as always, mate. My pleasure.
And we'll be back again, hopefully, maybe even Sunday. We'll see. Come on the Whites.